Hello everyone. In this part of our discussion, we're gonna talk about how we can do the setup for Selenium. We're gonna see how we can configure the libraries for the Selenium WebDriver, and we will be using something known as Eclipse as an IDE. So we'll be looking about the configurations with respect to our Eclipse. Since we'll be using Java to demonstrate all the Selenium programs, so we're gonna write a first Java Maven project in our discussion, and thereafter we're gonna see how we can execute the first Selenium program. So let's get started. So here on the official selenium.dev, you would be able to find all the necessary required resources to be downloaded, right? And since we're gonna do the automation testing, we need the very first thing to begin with is Selenium WebDriver. Now, in order to come up and do the testing on the browsers, so we need this Selenium WebDriver to be configured. So let's click on read more here, and in the very getting started guide here, you would be able to see installation of the Selenium library, and the second step is where you need to work on setting up the browser driver, right? So let's see installing the Selenium library first. Now, if you're writing a Java Maven project in Eclipse, so what you need to do is you need to actually add this Maven dependency, right? So this will copy all the jar files which are necessarily required in order to come up and use Selenium for your project. Now, so on and so forth, we do have the setup for the different languages like Python, C Sharp, Ruby, JavaScript, and the Kotlin as well. So once we have configured the Selenium as the probable, library, then we need something known as the browser driver. So the web driver we need to work with as with respect to whatever the browser you're gonna test. So if you are working with the Chrome or the Chromium from the Google, you need to download another set of driver program for different you can say browsers. We have different setups available. Now just for an example, right, so let's say the Chrome driver, I'll go to the downloads and you can see a list of versions available here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna download one of the versions, but this version should match with the version of your Chrome. Okay, so if I'm running my Chrome, let me go and say about the Google Chrome. You see the version which I'm running is 96.0. So this typically means that I will not be working on 97.0 here, so I'll be working on 96.0. So that is the only thing which we need to understand here. So let's go to the 96.0. Now with respect to your different operating systems, you do have these different drivers available. All right, so we do have something known as the Mac 64, the Mac 64 M1 for the M1 chip, right? And for the Linux and for the Windows support, we do have the drivers available, right? So this is something which we need to download as the second thing. Okay, so this is what we got with respect to our getting started guide, installation of the Selenium libraries, and then installation of the browser driver. So two things which we need to do. And now let's come to the Eclipse. So this is the official ID which we're going to use. You can download the latest version. So the prerequisite to use Eclipse is that you should be already having your you can say JDK installed and configured. So I'm just gonna say Selenium demos as my workspace, right, in the downloads directory. Let me say launch. Now till time the Eclipse gets launched, I'll also open mvnrepository.com. Now in the MVN repository, you can always search for the Java libraries. Now for example, I'm gonna say Selenium Java, and let's do a search on Selenium Java. So the very first link which you find is Selenium Java, and here also you will find all the various different versions available, right? Now 4.0.0 is the latest version. Now the benefit of having Selenium Java in the MVN repository is that you will always get to see this Maven dependency which you can add in your Eclipse, in your Java project, right? So other than this, we do have different build systems to use for. So till time our Eclipse is now launched, right? So we just saw how we can work with the MVN repository. So let's close this welcome page, and here you can see an option to create a Maven project. Now, if you want, you can even optionally download the jar files. If you can see here, you'll be able to see the jar files which you can download, all right? Or you can work with the Maven project. So officially in the industrial standards, we do work on the Maven or on the Gradle project. So that is the reason that we'll be following the same technique. You can even say file new Maven project from here, right? So let us say create a Maven project, and we'll say next. So in order to create the Maven project, you need to just click on the internal catalogs, which will give you a list of options, what kind of projects you are trying to create or you want to develop, right? So that is what you will get. So just choose something like a quick start. So just give me a moment. So here we are with the Maven archetype quick start. So let's say next. Now you need to give a group ID, which is basically the company's domain name in the reverse order, right? So for example, it can be com dot something like maybe ABC, right? This also becomes the package name. Then the artifact ID is your project name. So I'm gonna say this is my Selenium 1, right? So that is my artifact ID or the application name. So this becomes the package name, right? So com dot company name dot Selenium 1. So now let's do finish on it, and we got our very first Maven project created in our Eclipse as the IDE, right? So this is supposed to work with the configurations which we need to do for Selenium, right? Through this XML file called project object model or pom.xml file, right? So let us open this pom.xml file. And in this XML file, you already see that there is the same group ID, same artifact ID which we configured, and a version is given automatically. So whenever you build it, it will be packaged as a jar. And this is the name of our project more or less. So some properties for source encoding, and one of the dependencies is already added by the name of JUnit. Right? So unit testing, we do have one of the dependencies already added. So you can see the Maven dependencies coming up here, right? So it is already available here. Now let us come back and copy this Selenium from the mvnrepository.com, which is the dependency which we need, and I'm just going to come here and do a paste on it, right? So this is like one more dependency which we are going to add. Sorry, so my bad. So this is supposed to be copied inside the dependencies here. Now the moment you say save, so you will find that here, right on the bottom right hand side, so this list of jar files will be downloaded automatically. And you see now there are pretty much available jar files or the libraries which we need so that we can work with Selenium, right? So it's already added for us. Now that is what is the benefit of working with a Maven project. Other way around, you need to do a right click here on your project, then say the build path and configure build path, and you need to link the jar files your way, right? So I need to go here to the libraries and say add external jars. But that is something which is very much hard coded way of doing it. This is automated. Now let us go to the src directory here, and in the main in the Java, so our project folder structure will find that there is one Java program by the name of app.java, right? So this is where you typically need to write your Java program, and this is a very first hello world program which is coming up for us. So let me try giving it a run here, and see what happens. So let's say run, and we see the output coming up as hello world. So system.out.println is just going to print this hello world on the console as one of the execution responses. Now, if you want to use the Selenium, APIs, since we have already configured the jar files, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna demonstrate you. We got something known as WebDriver as one of the interfaces as an API from the Selenium packages, right? Then I can say driver is a new object of the Chrome driver. Now, same way, this driver can also refer to something like the Firefox driver. The same driver can also refer to something known as the Safari driver, so on and so forth, right? So guys, whatever the driver you would like to work with, so are you going to work with Chrome as a browser for the automation testing, or the Firefox, or the Safari? So accordingly you need to create the object, okay? But the point here is that after this hello world statement, and before you create the object of your particular driver to automate testing, you need to do one more thing, which is configuring your Chrome driver basically, right? So before you create this object in the Java program, we need to configure our Chrome driver. So let me come here in the downloads directory. So you find that there is this Chrome driver available already, right? So I downloaded my Chrome driver here. So let me do a right click and say copy the Chrome driver as path name. So I just copied the path of my Chrome driver. So I'm gonna say string Chrome driver path. So this goes like the path of my Chrome driver, right? So this is where my Chrome driver resides. So it's an executable file. So typically if you will run your program, so your program might ask you to approve this application. So you may need to add it for your settings to get trusted on, okay? Now I'll say system dot set the properties. So in the system dot, not the properties, we're going to set only single property. So we'll say system dot set a property. Now property has a key and a value pair, okay? So the key here will be, so I'll even create a key as a separate string. So the key is WebDriver dot Chrome dot driver. So this is the key and this is the Chrome driver path. So I'm just gonna say this is my key value pair. Now, why you need to set this system property? What is the reason that we need to come up and have the system property set? Because when you create the object of Chrome driver, it will internally use this key whose value is the path to the Chrome driver to create the object of Chrome driver. So this is one mandatory thing which you need to do before you actually come up and construct the object. So it means if you're going to work with a Firefox driver, right? So here we got the Firefox, and the driver which you need to download and work is a separate driver, right? Now let me do a CISO statement here, system.out.println, where I'm just gonna say, I can come here and say Chrome driver created, right? So let's try to run this program now. So you see it says Chrome driver was successfully started, right? And Chrome driver created. So this is the Google Chrome, which is opened by the Selenium, right? So Chrome is being controlled by an automated test software. So that is what is our very first configuration response, our very first basic configuration program. So in this, I'm just gonna write one more line of code where I'm just going to comment this now, and maybe our hello world, which we don't need. So I'm gonna say with the driver and I'll say get, and let's pass a URL. So let's say https colon slash slash google.co.in, and now I'm just gonna say run this code. So your Chrome driver is started successfully, and you see there is this, have a look here, right? So it has opened the google.co.in, and this is how, guys, we can start our configuration with respect to the Selenium first program. So let me very quickly recap what we have done. So we do have this Eclipse as an ID where we'll be writing our Selenium based projects. You need to have JDK pre-configured, installed and configured in your systems before you install the Eclipse. You can install any latest version of the Eclipse. So in the Eclipse, what we did, we created a new Maven project. In the Maven project, in the pum.xml file, we're going to add the dependency for the Selenium. Now, this is basically the library provided by the Selenium framework, which you can use in your project so that you can access the APIs. When I say APIs, it typically means that you can, use something like the Chrome driver, or maybe, so other functions, for example, driver.get. So this is all coming from your this jar file configuration, which you did in the pum.xml file. In order to create the object of the Chrome driver, you actually need the Chrome driver, which you need to actually download and then give the path as uh, the path where exactly you have your driver kept. Then a key webdriver.chrome.driver is required by the Chrome driver class here from the Selenium framework, so that we can get to know where exactly the Chrome driver resides. So we need to set a system property, and we are done with it. So these are the few things which we just learned, that how we can write our very first Selenium program and we can execute it as a Maven project. Thank you so very much.